Well, are you breathing a little bit easier, Smashville? You can take a little bit of an exhale. Predators finally back in the win column for the first time since the All-Star break. We'll break down last night's thrilling 6-4 win over the Florida Panthers, including one moment that I thought really changed the momentum of the game. Plus, David Rittich surprise started last night. What did you think of his performance? And there is a more long-term reason we're asking that question. Plus, Tanner Jeannot moving closer to a bit of Preds history after another big night last night. Does he have some special motivation to get him there? We'll hear an interesting response to that sort of question coming up all today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime who I haven't seen in a while. It's been a couple days, Ann. How's it going?
It's great. It's great to have you back. You were missed, of course. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer at ontheforecheck.com.
Yeah, all the shows were fantastic. You're killing coverage, killed Olympic coverage also. I am sure you are very happy to actually get some sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning now.
Yeah, Beijing time is not Central Time friendly, just in case anyone was wondering.
Well, when it's in Italy in 4 years, hopefully a little bit more of a normal sleep schedule for you, I'm sure. Well, Predators, yay, they won.
Yay!
Off the losing streak is over. They finally get their first win since the All-Star break. And it was a pretty headline-grabbing win because it was over the Florida Panthers, the best team in the NHL right now. It is the Panthers' first home loss since December 16th of 2021. So a couple of milestones there for the Preds, and it was kind of a wild game. And let's start, as always, one word to describe last night's game.
Okay, so to come up with my one word, of course, there's lots of buzzwords that you could use, but I went old school toy. And my one word for this game is slinky, and not in the inappropriate way.
There's an inappropriate way to do slinky?
There's an inappropriate use of the word slinky, but hopefully you don't know about that. So anyway.
No, but go for it.
Okay. So the slinky, I'm talking the old school metal ones, not these plastic ones now that twist and bend, but old school slinky. You know, you could stretch that thing out. You could drop it from high above. You could let it go down the stairs, and it always snaps back to its shape. And I really feel like that's the Nashville Predators right now. Like, they've really been stretched. They've been dropped from high heights, but they come back to the same shape. And this is the same team that we were so excited about when they had their huge winning streak. This is the same team that unfortunately dropped 4 in a row. Like, this team is who we thought they were. They did have some bad runs, this 4-game losing streak, but they continued to play to their identity. And no matter what the circumstances were, they are who they say they are. And so for me, it just kind of reminds me of my old school metal slinky.
Pulling the Coach Dennis Green out for that soundbite. Love it. We are who we thought they were.
Yes.
And I'm going to pull something from the underrated 2000s movie Anger Management. I don't know if you remember that one. That was Adam Sandler. Jack Nicholson was like his anger management therapist. Marissa Tomei was in it. And there is a line where Jack Nicholson's kind of like this Zen guy who always tried to, get Adam Sandler to calm down. And there's one phrase he always used: Goose Faba. Goose Faba.
Oh my.
It was kind of this like recentered thing. Led to a great cameo at the end with Derek Jeter and Roger Clemens One of the best athlete cameos in a movie of all time. But that's like hey, take a deep breath and recenter and just think like everything is good. And not only did it feel that a lot during the game, the Panthers went up 3-1 and we were kind of panicking again. We're like, oh, they're going to fall apart. Then 2 very quick goals from Josi and Trenin that tied it up. And we're like, ooh, centered. And then Florida, scores that controversial 4-3 goal. Preds tied up right after. That gets wiped out. We're like, oh, it's that anti-Preds conspiracy coming back to bite us again.
Oh, yeah.
And then Trenin shorthanded kind of once again leveled the playing field. We can breathe. Goose Faba. Goose Faba. And then the game ends and the Preds finally get a win. Not just a gimme win.
No.
Hard-fought win over a very good team, the best team in the NHL. And again, Goose Faba, because it feels like the Predators can kind of breathe a little bit now. They don't have to answer questions about why they haven't won since the All-Star break. There's kind of got to brush off the questions about, well, are you really sure you can compete against all these bigger teams? And it's important because now we're going into a fun stretch. We got Pekka Rinne's jersey retirement on Thursday night. That's going to be sort of a celebratory game. We got the Stadium Series on Saturday. That's going to be like a fun event. And it's good that the Preds can kind of get the monkey off their back with, when you're going to end that losing streak. Obviously, still work to go. You still need to win a couple of these games coming up. But it does feel like we can take a little bit of a breath now because A, the losing streak is over. B, we can kind of take a deep breath and it's like, okay, now we can focus on maybe having a little bit more fun the next couple games as fans.
No. And I agree with you. I think timing wise, this is a great win for Nashville Predators fans because we want to be able to go into this Thursday night Pekka Rinne's retirement jersey versus Dallas game with some confidence, with some momentum, with not that anxiety, panicked feeling. So I think that really is a huge thing. I also think you can't underestimate this game. Setting aside that it is Florida, setting aside that it was in Florida, I think you can't underestimate the value of these 2 points in the Central Division right now because it is bat poop crazy in the Central these days. And that 2 points feels like a gift, hard earned. I will say the Predators earned those 2 points, but 2 points right now in the Central Division is just a huge win for Nashville too. So it's been a long time coming. That 4-game losing streak sort of felt a little bit like dog years, but we're back. And I think this is a huge win on a number of levels for Nashville.
Yeah. Does it change your opinion kind of on where the Preds were headed? Because I know a lot of people were sort of jumping off the bandwagon a little bit, saying, the Preds are who we thought they were, like you did, but in a little bit of a different context. Because it does to me. It kind of feels like a reassertion of, this is how we play and this is how we've been getting wins all season.
Yeah, you know what? If from an emotional standpoint, I watch hockey with the heart, which is just an exhausting way to do it, friends. But, you look at it from an emotional standpoint and you really started to, there really was some concern building with this 4-game losing streak, especially with the schedule looking the way that it did and the Central looking the way that it did. So I think that there was, no matter, just watching it from a feeling standpoint, there was this kind of, angst. But then when you step back and look at the games that Nashville lost, they played well. Some things didn't go their way. They weren't totally off their rocker. It wasn't, outrageous. There was inconsistency, but it wasn't outrageous inconsistently like what I think people are sort of triggered by from seasons past. So I think if you look at it objectively, it's, we're all okay. We've been okay this whole time. I think the Predators have felt like it's okay. So I give them a ton of credit for just sort of staying focused and not, as John Hynes loves to say, don't get too high, don't get too low.
Yeah, and it kind of, we heard Matthias Ekholm talk about it after one of the losses last week. He's like, look, we're, playing really well in games and just doing one or two small things wrong. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with our game right now. It's just fixing those one or two things. And the Predators did that last night. Very disciplined, only 3 penalties given up the entire game. I thought only the Alexander Carey cross-checking was one that was, I guess, unnecessary. So I think they were very disciplined. And it's funny, Ann, because when you look at the stats from last night and the Panthers getting 48 shots on net, you kind of get the vibe that it was like, oh, this is one of those games where the Predators had no business winning and just, good goaltending or whatever just kind of stole it. But in context, the game was actually looked even the entire time. And I know the Panthers wound up kind of aggressively out shooting the Predators there, especially in the first 10 minutes of the game where the Panthers like 20 shots or something like that. But as the game went on, other than that stretch, it looked even the entire time, regardless of what the stats say. I thought this was a game in which the Predators proved, look, we can go punch to punch with the best team in the NHL and not look out of the place. And they did. And that's the big thing is they, even though some of the stats show otherwise, the Preds never really looked out of the game. Like they looked like they were counterpunching every bit of offense the Panthers threw. This wasn't one of those games in which the Preds got dominated and kind of lucked into a win. They earned it.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is if you look at the arc of the game, Nashville was behind most of this game, but they never looked like they were chasing it. Kind of to what you're saying. They were in this game the whole time. They never looked like they were having to pick up and rush their play, rush their decisions to catch up. This wasn't a game of catch up, even though they were behind for a majority of the game. This was a very evenly matched game. And I think Nashville Predators fans need to really appreciate that. This is a team that can hang very adequately, just exclude puck luck, exclude calls going your way. This is a team that plays as well as the top teams in the NHL.
Yeah, and a big part of that win last night was David Rittich. We will talk about his performance last night. A lot to like, but also a bit of a question mark. And that leads us into a bigger topic of conversation. We'll also hear what John Hynes had to say about his performance. Also hear from Tanner Jeannot about chasing some history coming up in a little bit. But first, though, I want to mention today's show brought to you by our friends at Built Bar, a company that helped me get through a 9-hour drive to Daytona this past weekend because I needed some good snacks to have in the car. And Built Bar kept me full and helped me from not having to pull over on the side of the road to get some McDonald's every 5 hours. So yay. Built Bar's got a new thing called Puffs. If you haven't tried it, it's something you got to try. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. And they got some wild flavors too. They got churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They even got a mint puff coming up just in time for St. Paddy's Day, one of my favorite holidays. Hey, and if you're not a marshmallow lover, that's fine. Built Bar's got plenty of normal, great tasting protein bars that taste like candy bars. They got flavors like mint brownie, coconut almond, cherry barcia, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious and new flavors are coming out all the time. And the best part is low in calories, low in sugar, low in carbs, but high in protein. If you don't want to take our word for it, try it yourself. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, promo code LOCKED15, all one word, gets you 15% off at built.com. Well, and tomorrow
Oh,
Big,
yes.
big day for the Nashville Predators community. Pekka Rinne's 35, going up into the Raptors as the Preds take on the Dallas Stars. We will have a look at Pekka's career. We'll count down some of our favorite moments, talk about what we're excited to see about the jersey retirement ceremony. A special show tomorrow celebrating Pekka. And of course, we'll also look ahead to the actual game itself, Preds versus Stars. But we have some other goaltending stuff to talk about. And David Rittich, surprise starter last night for the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, I'll say I really felt like, even in the crossover episode with our friend at Locked On Florida Panthers, I was like, oh, yeah, no, it's definitely going to be Juuse Saros. And so imagine when David Rittich is in net, and I'm thinking, now, say what? Say, what are we doing here? So somebody actually asked John Hynes about it in the post-game press conference. What was kind of the thought process behind starting David Rittich? And we have a clip of what he had to say about that.
As we've kind of talked about early in the year, where Juuse has played a lot of hockey, but we felt like the way that he was playing, the way that the schedule first half of the year, it lended itself for him to play the amount that he did. But we knew the second half of the year that David was going to, you're going to be able to need two goalies, and it was an opportunity to get David into a game. And it was a couple things. We feel like Juuse is, we want to have Juuse ready for the Dallas game. He didn't get much of a break at the All-Star game. So it was a real chunk in the schedule where it made sense to give David an opportunity to get in and play. And it also gave us an opportunity to get Juuse, really basically 5 days of mental, physical rest, a little bit of practice time. So we went into the decision looking at both sides of it, and we feel like it worked out well. Well, one, we think it.
I like that clip, and because he's joining us in that triple box. Like, it looks like he's on the show.
He's a guest.
Yeah, he is a guest. Yeah, I agree with everything he kind of mentioned right there. Saros hasn't had much of a break. He's kind of been carrying the team, and 4 straight losses. Obviously, you're not going to pin them all on him.
No,
sure. But it's also like a time for him to kind of reset and be like, you know what? Let's not have a lot of pressure on you this game. We got Rittich. We want to give him some more ice time, and let's see what he can do. And yeah, and I think that's kind of an important thing. See what he can do. Because lately, when you talk to some of the Predators fans, either online or in person, there's kind of this growing push of, do we maybe need to go out and get a backup, like kind of a spot starter at the trade deadline?
Yeah, and I think that those rumblings have really grown a little bit. And there's a part of me that has to wonder how much of this start is a chance for John Hynes, David Poile to kind of take a look at what do we have, especially in a game against a team that is inevitably going to be in the playoffs. Like, how is David Rittich gonna stand up in a game, long term down the road, if perhaps he is needed in the playoffs? Which, of course, the plan would be to start Juuse Saros when it comes down to it, but you just never know. And I think, I'll be honest, there's a part of me that thinks, if something were to happen to Juuse, do we have the guy? And we got the win last night, and it was a big win. I think he had some really great saves. He definitely, I think it was an Alexander Barkov save on a breakaway. He had a big save. So definitely came up big at times for the Predators. But there were also some moments, I'm not going to lie, Nick, where I was like, I need you to find the puck.
Well, I'm coming back to something you mentioned there and I'm going to do that in just 1 second. But yeah, because it was an up and down game for David Rittich, 44 saves last night. And I think he did better as the game went on. Yeah. But at the same time, I look at all 4 goals. Maybe not the last goal, the Sam Bennett poke in when Rittich kind of thought he had it covered. That's kind of its own thing. But let's focus on the first 3. Yeah, those were all pretty soft goals.
Yes.
Soft goals. And I think that was kind of when I looked at it and said, like Saros definitely would have made
Yes.
all three of those routinely.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of, my takeaway is, he did make some good saves down the stretch, but also three kind of soft goals. So sort of a mixed bag. The one thing I will say, and you mentioned the Alexander Barkov breakaway, that to me is the one play that I think changed the momentum of this game. So the Predators had just tied it to make it 3-3. The random like 30-second flurry first from Josi and then from Yakov Trenin to tie it up. And then the Preds got a power play, and we're thinking, all right, here's the momentum swing right there. And the first shot on that Preds power play gets blocked, and it leads to Sasha Barkov on a breakaway. Sasha Barkov, one of the best players in the NHL this year, makes a great move, and Rittich stonewalls him. And that was big because Rittich had let in some, the three iffy goals prior to that. The Predators had all this momentum. And, as Barkov's going in, I'm just like, well, this is where the Preds off enough again.
Yep.
That save from Rittich, I think both settled the Preds down a little bit and settled Rittich down a little bit. And it's just like, okay, it was kind of a rough first little bit. This is kind of, all right, like, we're not going to be doomed by another mistake. We're settled. Going back to the goose faba that I mentioned at the top of the show, one word. It kind of, settled the Predators a little bit, and they had a big jump right after that. They started swarming around the Florida net. And that was, the period after that, towards the end of the second period, I thought is when the Predators got some of their best chances of the game.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that because I just remember the moment seeing it happen, and it was almost like in slow motion because you can just feel your hope diminishing as you see Barkov streaking towards the net, just knowing what he's capable of. And that was a huge save by Rittich. And I really agree with you. I think for him, it settled everything down a little bit. And I think for Nashville, it did. Now, I will say that for me, the flip point in the game for me came on the goal that wasn't a goal. And I think the most important goal that was scored was one that didn't show up on the scoreboard. And that's, Luke Kunin's goal, which was called back for goaltender interference. This happened 14 seconds after Florida went up again, and Kunin came back and scored 14 seconds later. Now, this goal was called off for goaltender interference. And you hate to say it, but they got the call right. Okay, you got that one right.
We can talk about a conspiracy, though, an anti-Preds conspiracy.
Oh, 100%. We've got other examples that are questionable. This one maybe doesn't go in that pile. But, the moment that really impressed me so much was after that goal was called off, you saw John Hynes on the bench just going up the players and just saying, we've got this, get going, let's go. And this team was absolutely unfazed. It was like they had just proven to themselves, yep, we can go down one, but we can come right back. And I think that speaks to the belief and the confidence that this team has. And I think from that point on, Nashville felt like, okay, we're the masters of our destiny here. We're going to decide how this game turns out. So I thought that was a pivotal moment too.
Yeah, and it led to maybe the most important play of the game, something I want to build on in a little bit, Ann, but we got to pay some bills and mention some more of our friends here.
We do. And, I'm always happy to talk about our friends at BetOnline. Football may be over for this season, but basketball is full steam ahead in both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for, of course, all things hockey, boxing and UFC odds, right to Olympic coverage and information. Head to their website today, betonline.net, or you can use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models on the road, it's now almost impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. So why endure all the pointless or intimidating questioning from the people behind the counter ordering parts on their computer? You can do all of that from home by using RockAuto.com. You save time and money when you use Rock Auto. You don't need to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain auto store or car dealership. For example, Honda Odyssey, a new fuel pump is $353 from a chain store, only $216 from Rock Auto. Their family business, they've been doing do-it-yourself help for over 30 years. Their prices are reliably low for every customer. They got everything you need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, to new carpet and upholstery. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box, so they know Locked On Predators sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com. And before the break, we were kind of talking about that disallowed goal.
Yes.
The Predators had tied it, something like 15 seconds after the Panthers went ahead on a controversial goal. The Predators then get their goal wiped off the board for, another sort of a scramble play like that. In retrospect, the right call, but it was kind of one of those, of course this happens. The Predators get screwed on a missed whistle, and now they're getting screwed by replay. And then a penalty comes.
Yes.
Kind of thinking, okay, this is sort of the turning point. This is kind of where it all falls apart. And then right off the bat, Tanner Jeannot, which was still only 2 minutes after the Panthers went ahead, unassisted breakaway goal on a great all-around play. Kind of looked like he was going to fall down at one point.
Yeah.
But still managed to keep his balance, beat Aaron Ekblad, who's one of the best skaters in the NHL, and then beat Sergei Bobrovsky, one of the best goalies in the league, to get the Predators back on even footing. And that was important. That was maybe the play that's just like, as you mentioned, we talk about the fight in the Predators, how we're not going to be knocked around, how we're not going to get too high or too low. This to me was the play that kind of signaled, okay, yeah, we got screwed. That's fine. We're rolling with the punches. John Hynes got the troops kind of back focused. And then that was, I think, the dagger for the Florida Panthers. They get kind of 2 breaks in a row, kind of look like, maybe a good, last 10 minutes or so would kind of give them the win, and the Predators just didn't give them a third chance.
Well, in this goal, like you said, I think it's so important. I will say that I was so surprised. This is the first shorthanded goal for the Predators of the season. And I thought, what in the world have we been doing on these penalty kills before? But I guess we've been killing penalties because, we're good at that. But and this was just one of those all heart, all effort, willing that goal to happen by Tanner Jeannot. I mean, just phenomenal play by him. And, he's worked really hard to earn the minutes and the trust and the respect of his teammates. He was asked last night in the post-game press conference, they talked to him about the fact that, he's had a lot of faith put in him when he was protected in the Seattle expansion draft, which was, let's face it, that was a ruckus and a brouhaha here in Nashville. Yeah. And so they asked Tanner Jeannot about, being protected in that draft. How did that affect, or how does that affect his play? And this is what he had to say about that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. in the off season there when I got protected in the draft, it was, something that was maybe pretty unexpected, but I just tried to take it as I want to continue to get better and, make them happy with that decision. So that's been my focus, and not only for them, but for myself. I know that I can continue to grow as a player, and I want to be the best player I can, and I want to help my team win every single night. So that's my mindset. I just want to do whatever I can to help the team win, whatever that is, and just get some wins.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the expansion draft is always kind of going to be a thing for Nashville Predators fans. Did they do it too early? Should they have gotten one more year? Would they have taken Jeannot anyway?
Mm-hmm.
This, that, clearly in retrospect, the right call. Because Jeannot is having a great season and becoming an important part. We talked about history now with 17 goals on the season, because after the goal we just talked about, he scored the empty net goal on another
Correct.
good play. And so he is now 9 behind Filip Forsberg for the most by a rookie all time in Predators history. He is only one. He's only one away from Alexander Radulov, who was second place, and he did that in 13 fewer games. And we always talk about how dynamic Alexander Radulov here was with the Preds, still a dynamic player. So that's impressive. A guy who wasn't drafted anywhere, who was playing in the ECHL to start last season, who is now looking like he's going to become a dynamic top 9 player, a goal scoring checker for quite a long time for the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, and I think Tanner Jeannot not only brings goal scoring to the team, but I think he also is valuable in sort of those untangible ways. You look at that herd line: Yakov, Trenin, Tanner Jeannot, Colton Sissons. And they really are the identity line of this team. They really embody exactly what John Hynes wants from his team. And, Yakov, Trenin, goal last night. I mean, this is a line that I think really sets a tone. They start most of these games. They set a tone for this team. And so I think Tanner Jeannot has proven his value, not just, in the score sheet, in the stats, but also just in the intangibles that John Hynes really is looking for from his team as well.
Yeah, a couple other notes before we send it out for the day. Obviously, Borowiecki didn't play last night. He did not travel with the team. Phil Myers comes in, and I thought maybe his best game as a Predator. Maybe not on the score sheet, but just in terms of making sound plays.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I was a little nervous about this one, I'm not going to lie, but I felt like he had a really solid game. He did exactly what Nashville needed him to do.
And also, I think this happened while I was on vacation. We're 2 games into the second line switch. Phil Tomasino now in the second line, Colvin and back to the fourth. Thoughts on that and how that's going?
You know what? I was very interested that John Hynes decided to continue this kind of switch. I really like what I'm seeing from Phil Tomasino. I love the idea of putting him with Ryan Johansson and Luke Cunnin, especially. And here's a little thing, and I don't mean this to sound petty, but I think there is some benefit to an angry Eeli Tolvanen on the fourth line. I think he had some great looks last night, and I think maybe this is something that will get Eeli Tolvanen going. He plays such a good, solid, all-around game. I think just a little offensive kick would be great. And I thought he had some good looks last night on that fourth line.
He did, and that's also a line that I think as the Preds get closer to the trade deadline and maybe add another forward somewhere, there's probably going to be some changes that lead that fourth line to have a little bit more of a scoring punch. Also, when Cousins come back, I think that's going to be a little bit more power in that line as well. Although I will say Michael McCarron, great game last night.
Yes.
Especially on the penalty kill. One of the Preds' better penalty killers, I thought.
Yes, and that's a really big deal when you have Mark Borowiecki out, to have somebody like Michael McCarron come in on the kill and play as strong as he did.
Yeah. So should be an interesting next couple of weeks for the Predators, both in terms of who they play and getting closer to that trade deadline. We'll have coverage of that. Tomorrow, though, it is all about number 35. The reason Anne has that number 35 in her email address.
That's right.
It is going to be a very Pecorine-centric show. We're going to be talking about our favorite memories, what he meant to the organization, where we see maybe his place in NHL history. Is he a Hall of Famer? A lot of stuff we'll get into tomorrow. And of course, we'll look ahead to his jersey retirement ceremony and the Preds game against the Dallas Stars. Until that happens, though, and where can the fine people find you online?
You can find my work at ontheforecheck.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can also find my work at ontheforecheck.com. Also, follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan and follow the show at LO_Predators. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like us, share the video, leave a comment. Any little interaction you have helps. Let us know what you thought about our takes on the game, and if there's anything you want us to talk about in a future show moving forward. Until then, though, that's going to do it for us today here on the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day.